you recently spoke about people being stuck in their minds and that being one of the biggest contributors to mental health problems. Could you expand on that, please?
In the yoga system, the mind is viewed, as I said, as potentially one's greatest friend or one's greatest enemy. And the distinguishing thing is whether one's mind is considered bridled or unbridled. Bridled means it's been controlled, like a bridle at a you put on a horse, with a bit in its mouth and the reins to steer and guide it. And so the message there, rather than allowing your mind the freedom to just go wherever it wants, and that I should then just be constantly following that, which is really what addiction is all about, or whether I make a decision that I should be putting my mind to good use. I should be in charge of and directing my mind and not being a victim of it. The yoga system is very much focused on this reality, and people then engaging in practices that make it so that my mind becomes a tool that I use for good, my good and for the good of others, rather than me becoming a victim of my own mind and just allowing it to go wild and becoming enslaved by its endless desires and wants and fantasies.
It's interesting that you've brought that up, because I think, I think a common theme of people who suffer from mental health problems and addiction especially is there is a desire for freedom and a desire to control things, and an inability to be able to deal with things changing. Can you speak a bit about what freedom actually is, and talk to the idea of control, please?
There is a pervasive idea in the world that has come about with this, monumental shift in society towards consumerism, where people think that freedom is the ability to do anything that I want to do, to experience anything I want to experience. And if I can do that, I will be free. And so as part of that, there was a whole philosophical shift in society away from the influence of religion and morality to the idea that you should not have any hang-ups about anything. You should be able to do anything that you want to do and just wallow and relish, the experience without any sort of like the feeling of somebody looking over your shoulder or passing some judgment. And this is a false idea. This is not freedom. A couple of things. One is every act that you engage in will have a consequence, and you cannot escape those consequences. So the laws of karma were such that when you engaged in certain actions, yes, there will be an equal and opposite reaction that comes from it. You are affected in terms of your own consciousness and the development of desire going forward by choices that you make. You are constantly subjected to so many results that begin to shape your life from choices that you make. If you think that just because you could unimpeded make a choice to do something that you are free, that is really childish and naive. You have to consider that for every action there is a consequence, there is a result, there is an effect that you will experience. It will be an effect sometimes physically, sometimes mentally, on your state of consciousness that will lead to other types of decision making. I mean, you can feel that I'm free to make this choice, and that can be the first step in a whole series of things that brings you into the most horrible situation, where you're absolutely lost. The mere fact that you could freely make that choice doesn't mean that you're free. Your freedom is measured by whether you are free from the effects or the results of those things. So leading a spiritual life, it was understood that one became free from karmic consequences, from consequences of it having a really negative effect on your consciousness, on your mind, on your desires and things. It was liberating and uplifting. So freedom is not the freedom to choose to do whatever you want. That's an animal. That's what an animal does. But even then, an animal's not free. They're bound by the consequences of their choice. That animal decided it really needed a drink and went a bit too close to that pond, and the alligator launched out of it and grabbed it, So there are consequences to everything. And to think the freedom to make the choice is freedom is naive and wishful thinking.